Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, everybody, we are back, and you know what time it is when it is Friday, and it's around 3 o'clock. You see who I'm joined with. It's the one and only Candace Plattor from Love with Boundaries, and so nice to always see you on a Friday. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, glad to be here. I just want to say hi to everyone and let you know that I'm kind of experiencing some hoarseness today, so you may hear me clearing my throat. Just bear with me.
Gotcha. And also, I just found out that I don't think we have many shows in this series left. The season, I guess, is going to end. So,
yeah,
if you guys have questions, next week we'll take most of your questions. So, if you ever wanted to ask Candace something, now's the time to do it. If you want to make a note to do it, next show, or to send it through to email. But next week we will be taking a bunch of your calls, which is 631-205-6568. If you want to call, you can do that, or use that instant feedback. So I just wanted to make a show note there. And the other thing I thought what I wanted to say was, Candace, you sent me a really cool article. Do you want to maybe tell the audience about what you sent me? Because it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's about Matthew Perry and his addiction and, and his recovery.
The guy from Friends, if people don't know.
The guy from Friends, Chandler Bing, who was always my favorite character. I love the sardonic wit, the sense of humor. Yeah, and he's nice to look at, right? So, so I think most people know the show Friends and most people know him. And I would assume that, if you're dealing with anything to do with addiction, you've probably heard that he was having a lot of trouble. If you watch the show, we watched him kind of balloon in weight, and we watched him get very skinny, and all of that was due to addiction.
Why does that happen, Candace?
Well, I think what he said, I saw him on a couple of talk shows, and what he said was that when he was drinking, alcohol has a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah.
That's how they make it palatable for you to drink it. So he would balloon, his weight would go up. And when he was taking drugs, he was on a lot of opioids and some heavy duty stuff like that. And he wouldn't eat much, and, classic kind of addict symptoms of being on drugs like that, and just not having an appetite, and you don't care whether you eat, you just want to get high.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that, because I know cocaine and like the speed stuff, that doesn't make you hungry, but I always wondered about the opiates and the heroin. Does that do anything to your appetite?
Not that I know of. It doesn't. I don't know whether it makes you more hungry. I know pot makes you hungry for the munchies, for every bad food you could ever imagine. But I'm not sure about the others. It's hard for me to remember back. For people who don't know me, I was an opioid addict for 15 years because of medications that the doctors gave me for my Crohn's disease. And it was hell. It was just hell. That was a long time ago, and I didn't even know I was an addict. I didn't know anything about addiction. So I'm 35 years clean and sober now, which is, so much better.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember back. I smoked a lot of pot, so I ate a lot of chocolate and a lot of stuff like that. But I don't remember whether the opioids affected my metabolism, but I think it did for him. That's what I remember him saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you just brought something up that I always wanted to know. With what you do, and helping addicts and their families, is there a cross of opinion where marijuana is something that can't really get you in trouble. What are your views about that? Is it a gateway drug, or can people be addicted to marijuana and that could be their problem? Just pot.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay? Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm here to tell you yes. And now, I mean, when I was smoking it all those years ago, it was a lot purer of a substance. Today, it's cut with so many things. One of the things that's sometimes cut with is fentanyl,
God.
which is just horrifying. I don't know who these people are and why they feel the need to do this. It's horrible. But if you take a toke of a joint that's cut with fentanyl, it can kill you, and you won't know until you take that toke.
Right. Right.
But putting that aside, today's pot is very addictive because it's cut with all kinds of things that will make your body addicted to it. But also, you know, it's got THC in it. THC is an absolute drug. There's no question about that. And this particular drug is stored in a person's fat cells. And for most of us, it's a little hard to get rid of our fat cells. So it stays in there for a while,
Yeah, for
even when
years,
we
right?
stop using. Yeah, I'm reminded, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I remember walking away from a Narcotics Anonymous meeting with a friend of mine, and we were just walking down the street, and I said to her, "Oh my God, I feel like I'm high." And I was a few months clean. I hadn't touched pot. I feel like I'm high.
Oh,
And it wasn't until later that I understood I was losing weight because I had ballooned a little bit and I was losing some weight. And so as my fat cells kind of got smaller and disintegrated, the THC would come into my bloodstream. Who knew?
Candace, I'm so glad you just said that. The same thing happened to me, and then I
Ah,
associated that with a panic attack, and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I made a mistake a long time ago, and it's coming back months later. I'm like, am I gonna be crazy for the rest of my life? But that's what it was, right? Because it's stored in the fat.
right. Well, you know, we want to be just a little crazy for the rest of our lives because
This
not
wasn't
being
fun, no.
not being a little bit crazy can be really boring. But no, you were not going crazy and you were not having a panic attack. The THC was getting into your into your bloodstream, into your system, and you were feeling it.
Yeah.
And nobody tells us this until it happens to us, and maybe we do some research about it. Maybe we think we're having a panic attack.
Right.
So, but but I was totally addicted to pot. It was my drug of choice. I
Wow.
used opioids every day. But if I had to choose, and Valium too, but if I had to choose one drug that I wanted to use forever, it would have been pot.
Is there
So
withdrawal to pot, Candace?
I'm sorry.
Is there withdraw? Excuse me. Is there withdrawal to marijuana?
Uh,
Pot?
I think there is withdrawal. It's you know, because your system is used to it, your brain is used to it. I think there is withdrawal. I can't tell you that personally from my own experience because I was on pot and opioids and Valium when I started withdrawing, when I went into detox. Because if I hadn't gone into detox, I could have had seizures. I could have died from the withdrawal. I needed people who knew what they were doing. So it's hard for me to say which one of those drugs caused the most withdrawal for me. But I think anything mind altering that we put into our brains and into our bodies, into our organs, it gets into every organ. You know, this is poison and it gets into us. I
Yeah.
think all of them are going to have withdrawal symptoms, and alcohol for sure.
Yeah. I heard even.
Alcohol
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Alcohol's the easiest one to withdraw from, and it takes, unless you've been drinking so much that you need medical assistance to withdraw, and if you do, then please get it. But you know, I was in detox for probably about 3 weeks, and I had roommates in the room that I was in, all of whom were alcoholic. And I watched them leave after a week because it was easy for them. It just went out of their system, it was gone, you know.
Yeah.
And there I was still there, not knowing my own name.
Oh
Right.
God.
So,
I can only imagine. I was in a couple rehabs years ago, and the heroin guys, they would just sit in the shower all day, because they would say that their bones were cold, and they were
mm,
so miserable.
uh, this is what poison does when you put it into the system. Uh,
Yeah.
those poor guys, I really feel for them.
Well, you know
It's
exactly what that's like.
I do. I know exactly what it's like. And 35 years later, I remember detox. I can see it in my mind. I can feel it, you know.
I bet.
So um if we get back to Matthew
Yeah,
Perry,
please.
um he something that he said, mm, I I
Uh,
have a problem with.
okay. All right, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that?
Well, I want to preface it a little bit by saying that, I admire him so much as an actor and also as a person who really wants to help other people, and that's what he's trying to do here. And he's written a book, uh, lovers, friends, and the big bad thing or something. Big
Friends,
bad terrible
lovers,
thing,
and the big terrible thing.
and the big terrible thing. Yeah, great title. I really appreciate that he wants to help others. That's where I come from too, and I believe you do too, KC. And um, so I just really want to say that first, and thank you so much, Matthew, for doing that.
Yeah.
I I know that he's in 12-step programs, which I went to for about 10 years of my recovery. The the teachings in 12-step programs um, are something that I have difficulty with because they teach you that you're powerless. First of all, they teach you that you have a disease. They call addiction a disease because there's brain involvement. But like I've said before on your show, there's brain involvement in everything we do. If I move my finger, there's brain involvement. That's how human beings are wired. All mammals, I think, are wired that way.
Mhm.
Um, that doesn't mean that addiction is a disease. Crohn's is a disease. Cancer is a disease. You can't just get rid of that. You can stop addiction. Underneath any kind of model that you look at, whether it's a medical model of disease, whether it's, there's maybe a genetic predisposition that runs in your family, anything the way that you look at addiction, underneath that is always a choice of not a choice about whether you become an addict. I don't think anybody makes that choice,
Mhm.
but there's a choice about whether you stay in active addiction or whether you go into some kind of recovery.
Right.
And everybody in recovery knows that.
Yeah.
We all know that we're making a choice every day to stay in recovery. And most addicts in active addiction know that they're making a choice not to do that they're making a choice to keep using. We
Right.
know that,
Yeah.
So to see addiction as a disease is I just don't
You don't
I
buy
don't
it.
buy that.
Yeah,
I don't buy
I'm
it.
with you. I'm with you. I got you.
Yeah. Um, but I don't mind if you see it that way. That's okay. Just also know that it's a choice.
Yeah. Well, Crohn's
Right?
disease is not a choice.
Crohn's disease,
That's a
I
different.
have tried so hard to get rid of Crohn's disease. I still have it after 50 years of having it.
Right.
So but so
It
12
was
step
something that you
programs
didn't agree with. That's where you were going.
that's one of the things that I don't agree with. The other piece is that you're powerless over this disease. And I would sit there at 10 years clean in a meeting and hear these readings. If you've been to 12-step meetings, you know that they start with readings. And um, I would think, well, wait a minute. I don't think it's really a disease. I think I make a choice every day and I'm not powerless over this because I'm 10 years clean.
Right.
It didn't make sense to me. And the third piece of it is that relapse, they tell you that relapse is a normal and natural part of recovery. Well, I have not relapsed and I have had several occasions to relapse. you know, I mean, aside from the everyday choice to relapse that one can make, I've had medical situations where I've been put on drugs, and, you know, I could have kept going that way. I made a choice to stay in recovery.
That's
So
the proof right there. I mean, right there is, case in point, because, after a surgery or something like that, some people say they can't, take anesthesia, or, after a surgery, they can't take any pain medicine or something like that. But, you know, when an addict or an ex-addict, I guess you're always an addict, but when you do use something for pain, and you use it the way it's supposed to be used, and you stop when you're supposed to stop, that is a choice.
that is a choice. And if you want to stay in recovery, that's the choice you have to make. I mean, I've talked about this before on your show, where I had major abdominal surgery at 8 months clean. And I told them I was an addict. I told the doctors and the nurses. I thought they had put it in my file because I really wanted to get my 1 year cake. That was my goal, you know. And I woke up on a morphine drip that I controlled with my finger, with my thumb. I could have as much morphine as I wanted.
Jeez.
I mean, I was in heaven, but I also wanted my 1 year cake.
Yeah.
Which am I going to do? You know, what choice am I going to make? So I had to sit with that for a little while because I really liked the morphine a lot. I mean, I was an addict that really liked being high. I just did. I didn't like my life much, and it was really fun to be able to not have to deal with stuff, you know. And when you come out of surgery with any kind of, you know, or pain, you know, any kind of really major pain, you don't want to have to deal with that. That's horrible, right? But you know, you're going to make a choice. You're going to make a choice every day, every second. We're making choices. So the choice that I made was that I was going to use the morphine for 2 days, and then I was going to tell the nurses and doctors to take that machine away and not bring it back, no matter what I said or did. Do not bring it back.
Wow.
And I wanted extra strength Tylenol and a lot of ice packs to be brought to me, to put on the scar, to put on my belly.
So miserable. That must have been tough.
It was horrible. I was yelling and screaming, and the nurses wanted to medicate me. They wanted to give me painkiller, and just wouldn't take it. I wouldn't let them, because I must have been a terrible patient for them, right? But I had a decision to make. I was making my choice. I wanted my 1 year cake, you know, and every day I made a choice to stay clean, and that's how you get 35 years. I mean, the 35 years have gone by really fast, but here I am at 35 years, and I never thought that would happen.
Pretty awesome.
I was just as much of an addict as anybody listening, or anybody with a family member who is.
Right.
So you know, I had a problem with disease, with powerlessness, and with relapse as a normal, natural. I think it's dangerous to tell people that. I think it takes personal responsibility away from the person who's addicted, as well as their families who are struggling and flailing and don't know what to do. And by the way, I work with families like that. That's what I do. Yeah. I work with families that are struggling with addiction. I don't think I had said that today. So, so Matthew Perry is in 12-step programs. It seems to be working for him well. And I'm glad for him, because there are some people that it works really well for, and some people it doesn't work very well for. I'm one of them. I think there are more and more people like that now. One of the reasons is that the 12 steps were written in 1935 by two kind of upper class, financially, like rich, white Christian males.
Yeah.
And today, in almost 2023, you know, we're so diverse as a culture. So you're not supposed to change any of the wording of the 12 steps. That's like a no. You don't do that. And those who do that, I think, are very courageous to change it. For the 16 steps is a model that's been changed. The 12 steps changed. Such a good model. If you're looking for something else, the 16 steps, look that up online.
Do they start with God?
They talk about God, goddess, creator.
Same thing. The universe. It could be anything. Just something bigger than you.
Very, very inclusive. Yeah, something bigger than yourself. It's not just the 12 steps that have been changed to something else. It's really kind of a new set of steps, but based on the 12-step model. I I wouldn't want to go too far into explaining that. I ran some 16-step groups in another job that I was in. Just perfect, just beautiful, so inclusive.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, a lot of people don't know about it.
I'll have to Google that.
Google it, yeah, for sure. Beautiful steps.
Well,
So
I'm looking to forward to the thing Matthew Perry said that you
yeah. So Matthew Perry, when he's coming, it must be hard for him that everybody always says both of his names. So Mr. Perry, Matthew, came on to talk shows, and he was talking about his recovery and about having a disease and being powerless and all of that. And but he also talked about the fact that, I believe it was that he was using so many drugs, so many opioids, so much stuff that his bowel, his colon, actually started to explode. And I mean, I'm thinking, ouch! If I think Crohn's is painful, like that would be even worse. Right? And so his doctor said to him, you can either be an addict, you can either stop using drugs, or you can be an addict for the rest of your life with a colostomy bag.
I was confused about that part too.
So he made a choice. Mr. Perry did. He made a choice to not be an addict with a colostomy bag for the rest of his life. And guess what he did? He cleaned up.
I see. Okay, because the drugs were making him have to wear the colostomy bag. I see. So if he was going to use drugs, he would always have to have that. I see.
That's right. So he was given a choice by his doctors. You can keep using the drugs if you want to, but this is what's going to happen. This is the consequence that will happen to you. Does that matter to you? And he said, yes, that matters to me. So I am going to make the choice to stop using, to get into recovery, to not have to have a bag, which I think is a great choice, but it's a choice. It's a choice. So addiction is not something that he is powerless over.
Yeah.
He never was. Neither was I. Neither is anybody else.
Yeah, you just proved it again.
We may not have known that we had a choice, and there may not have been people telling us, you have a choice here. You know, there may have been people who were saying, you're powerless, blah, blah, blah. But once we understand that this really is about choice, it's so much more empowering. You have control over this. You don't have to live like this. And if you're a family member with an addict in your life, just please know that they are making choices to keep using. And your job as a family member is to make that as uncomfortable, make that choice as uncomfortable as you can from a loving place. From a loving place. We need to love with boundaries, but make it uncomfortable for them to make that choice to stay addicted, because you don't want them addicted. You want to help them come out of addiction. And when we make it too cushy, you know, an enabled addict does not recover, because why should they? So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I think that, you know, his good heart is wanting to get this message out, but in some ways it's a message that can be dangerous and is actually inaccurate.
Yeah, I like the way you turned you proved your point, and you always do. But using this article and this example, that was real effective. I was really bright. Good one.
Yeah, I think I might write something about it too, because I really want people to understand that this is a choice. It's not a disease, it's a choice.
Uh,
And I'm living proof that when we make a different choice, our lives get so much better. So that's what I want people to know.
Awesome. Great job again. Next week we'll do more with the audience and taking some calls or some instant feedback. But Candace, let me give you the floor here for the remainder, and then let people know how to get a hold of you. And with the holidays
Okay.
coming up, I know people got to get
Yeah. Yeah. So, especially this time of year, families, there's so much pain and trauma around the holidays when you have addiction in your family. So I really want you to know that if you call in or write in, I can answer some of those questions about how to do things for the holidays that will be different than maybe you've done them before and could work out a whole lot better. So I really hope you call in around that and any other questions that you have. So you can reach me at lovewithboundaries.com. That's my website. Um, and we offer a free 30-minute consultation. So you can take advantage of that. There's a link on our website that will give you a questionnaire to fill out. It's pretty short. We don't ask for a whole lot. Fill it out, submit it to us. We'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can, like probably the same day as we receive it. And we'll set up that 30-minute call because we know that addiction doesn't wait. And what will happen is you'll tell us a little bit about your situation. We'll tell you how we work. If it's a fit, we keep going. If it isn't, that's okay. And we're on Zoom, so we're all over the world.
Yeah.
So if you're listening from Finland, we have somebody in Finland right now. We can work with you as long as you speak English.
Got it.
Anywhere you are.
All right. The one and only Candace Plattor. And again, that's lovewithboundaries.com, doing great work. I hope your throat feels a little bit better, and always can't wait to hear what you have to say next. Thank you so much, and we'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.